So very good afternoon to one and all present here. I hope you all had a good lunch and welcome back. So we're going to be having our first session that's going to be a panel discussion. And the session's topic is going to be role of technology and AI, deep tech in travel and transportation. So I take the pleasure in welcoming each of our panelists. First, I would like to introduce each one of you and have you on stage. First and foremost, I would like to introduce Abhishek Alhadi, Fellow Aerospace Technologies, Honeywell. Abhishek Alhadi is a distinguished expert in aerospace engineering. His expertise contributes significantly to Honeywell's advancement in aviation technology. Can we have a huge round of applause to welcome the gentleman on the dais with us? Followed by, I would like to introduce Ashish Vikram, who is the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, SpiceJet. He's a visionary leader steering technological initiative in the aviation industry. His strategic approach ensures SpiceJet remains at the forefront of innovation and efficiency in air travel. Can we all put our hands together and welcome Mr. Ashish Vikram onto the dais? And our third panelist is going to be Georgina Galston, Chief of Staff, Homage Ventures. She's a dynamic professional facilitating strategic operations. Her role reflects a commitment to organizational excellence within the innovative landscape of Homage Ventures. Can we all give a thunderous applause to welcome Georgina onto the dais? Our next panelist is going to be Gayatri Malolin, who is the CEO of ATMEX Global Inc. She is a leader fostering collaboration within the tech community. As a moderator, she brings expertise in discussion, contributing to the dynamic evolution of the technology landscape. Can we all give a huge round of applause to welcome ma'am onto the dais? And now I would like to welcome, last but not the least, our panelist, Mr. C.P. Jois, who is the founder of Aviair Aero, who's a multifaceted professional with a profound passion for aviation. He is a pilot and an assistant professor of aeronautical of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. He combines practical experience with academics, insight to education, and inspire the next generation of aviation for all the professional and enthusiasts. So can we all give a huge round of applause to welcome C.P. Jois to kindly join us on the dais. A very warm welcome to you, sir. And now the stage is all yours, the panel discussion.
Hello. Thank you. And thank you all for being here right after lunch. Since we've had a slightly delayed start, I'd like to get started with the questions. Georgina, this question is for you to get this whole panel discussion kicked off. Aviation is a consumer business, and AI has a big impact on customer experience. So it'll be good if you can walk us through some of the initiatives that your company is doing, leveraging AI for a differentiated customer experience.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gayatri. I would like to actually begin by just speaking about how large the Indian aviation opportunity currently is. Just last month, our Prime Minister mentioned that over the next 15 years, we'll need 2,000 aircrafts. If you look at the current orders that the current airlines in India have given, we have approximately 1,000 aircrafts that will be coming over the next 15 years. So we still have that 1,000 aircraft gap that is just a huge potential sitting right there. Another thing that I would like to highlight that by 2047, India is going to be the leading player in the civil aviation market. So just to set the context, we have a long journey ahead of us, and we're only getting started. When I look at customer experience, there are various facets to it, right? And I work very closely with Akasa Air. I'm the chief of staff to Aditya Ghosh, who is one of the co-founders, who also was leading Indigo for probably 10 years before this. At Akasa, there are a bunch of things we are doing to make sure that technology is at the center of our customer journey. Right from the time that an individual, a passenger, thinks about booking a flight, to the time that they enter the aircraft, to the time that they pick up their baggage and get out of the airport infrastructure, we're trying to understand that what are the different points where we can use technology to make it seamless. And if you look at some of the airlines like JetBlue, for example, they have been doing this for several years now. AI is not something that is fairly new. I know that now we are talking a lot about it. But if you look at the statistics, Siri by Apple was launched 14 years back. Alexa was there 10 years back. So AI really is around us for a long, long time. It's just that we are starting to talk about it much more. So I think the first point for airlines, and I strongly believe that if we are able to crack this, we can crack AI in aviation, is bring teams together. Historically, if you look at an airline, we have airports, we have cabin crew, we have cockpit crew, we have the engineering, catering, all of these teams working in silos. If you pick up any airline, historically, you'll see that they are individually trying to meet their targets. They individually have their own dashboards, their own technology. And what we need to do to solve this problem, or to rather leverage AI better, is bring all of this together. We need one source of truth, and I believe that data can be that answer.
Thanks, Georgina. Moving on, I mean, AI is also about operational efficiencies. So Ashish, my question to you is, where do you see AI making a big difference, both in a cabin as well as in cockpit operations?
Yeah, thank you, Gayatri. So my experience has been in technology for the last 35 years. You know, I've worked with companies such as Yahoo, Flipkart, where we've been using big data and AI. And I joined SpiceJet about 4 years ago. Specifically, the chairman wanted to convert it into a more technology-led, AI-led company. And so, you know, we have been working on, like Georgina also said, AI has been around for a while. And so we have been working using AI on operational efficiency and, you know, and there are three areas there when we talk about cockpit and operational efficiency. One is obviously fuel efficiency. You know, how can we fly the existing aircraft, make them more fuel efficient, fly them in a more fuel efficient manner by getting directions from AI and exactly how to fly it. That's one. And that's also good for the environment. You know, airlines are one of the industries that emit a lot of CO2, and we need to reduce that. And this is one of the ways. The other is in terms of safety. So, you know, most of the aircraft crashes actually happen due to pilot fatigue and pilot error. And AI can help reduce that greatly, right? So it can detect stress levels in pilots and then, you know, take steps to, you know, reduce maybe the control of the pilot in those situations, detect, you know, anomalous situations as well, and do some automated stuff to help reduce that. People are also talking about maybe, you know, a single pilot flight with the co-pilot being actually an AI assistant. That's a little bit far away, but that's something that will also happen. And again, that reduces costs for airline, but also actually enhances safety. One thing that we are actually developing at SpiceJet is something called Precog, which is actually going operational now. Precog, I don't know if you saw a movie called Minority Report with Tom Hanks in it. So there were these people called precogs in that, which, you know, had a precognition or could tell you when a crime was getting committed before it got committed. And so you could then prevent that. And what we are developing using AI and black box data for every aircraft, it's a very large amount of data, but this software analyzes that within 1 hour for all flights, and is able to then find out situations where certain parameters have been exceeded, and therefore, you know, and then that report goes to every pilot every day on a near real-time basis, so they can see where they maybe exceeded certain parameters. And when we detect these kinds of situations happening a lot, then maybe some remedial training might be required. Or at certain airports, it can find out, you know, what's going wrong, and maybe some specialized training is required. So all of those things then prevent any future safety incidents. So that's actually now, and this is something that even Boeing has been trying to develop for a very long time. But this is operational at SpiceJet, only airline where such a thing exists. but we do want to now take it to other airlines and work with the regulators as well. So yeah, so I think those are some things, and this concrete example that I gave, you should see with regulators very soon.
Sure. Where is the industry in adopting this? Are all airlines already adopting this, or is it in?
So this is something that airlines have been wanting, but it has not existed even now. I don't think it exists. It requires deep technology in terms of big data technology to process black box data in a real-time basis. Because when we were using traditional technology to do this, it took us 1 week to actually process the data, and that doesn't work, right? So you have to do it in real time. You have to put in some AI technology and all that. So technology is not easy, and outside airlines, people don't have this data, right? Because the black box data typically is considered confidential. It's not shared by airlines outside to other companies. So the airlines themselves have to develop this. Other people don't have the data to be able to develop this kind of technology. So given our own data, we were able to do this. And we have demoed it to people. We have got reactions. It's not my saying, but they have said awesome seeing the demo. So definitely excited about this. And this, since it enhances safety, I think it's something that, of course, the regulators didn't know something like this existed, but once they see it, it's very likely that they'll make it mandatory.
Very nice, very nice. So in the recent past, we've been hearing a lot of conversations around autonomous driving, driverless cars. So my question to you, Abhishek, is with AI, do you see a future where it could be a single pilot cockpit with AI facilitating autonomous flying as well?
Thanks, Gayatri. That's a very relevant question for today, and so I'll reserve what Honeywell is doing for the next question, but I'll talk about a little bit on the single pilot operation stack. So, or simplified vehicle operations is what we call. I don't think so anyone in this room would be comfortable today to fly in an aircraft where there's no pilot, right? Is anyone comfortable in flying? Right? Yeah. So what it is going to be a stage-wise approach, and like many of the other speakers speaking in the other sessions, I do echo that we are certainly, or maybe most probably, going to skip autonomous cars, but we might probably go to the autonomous flying. May not be now, but in 10, 15 years. So this is how it will approach. So today, the first step is to help reduce or become an assistant to the pilot. So that will be step number 1 for whatsoever number of days. Then, like Ashish mentioned, there's a lot of data that is there in every part of the aircraft. So taking that, how do you reduce the pilot's workload would be the second step that we will be doing, right? And then in a controlled environment, the next stage would be to have a single pilot operations with the success of this data with deterministic output, reducing or doing the activities what the co-pilot was doing, and then become more robust as a system, and then let the pilot take the control. Then in the fourth step is where it will be still the pilot, but pilot wouldn't be doing much of the things other than to monitor and then ensure that the automated system is taking what it is supposed to do. And the last one, we may not remove the pilot still, but still have someone with entry level. I know Jois is not going to agree with me, but there's a future, maybe 20, 30 years, we don't know when everybody is comfortable, or when the iPad generation comes to flying. So that is where we want to make the overall system very robust, and we as engineers would want to make it very robust. And after certain millions of hours, if not few hundreds of millions of hours of flight data, monitoring how these automated systems or the AI systems are performing in every single operation, maybe an experienced pilot or a person who knows flying to sit and then control. By then, you need the technology which will be super fast in connecting to the aircraft to address emergency. and you have all the state-of-the-art artificial general intelligence working, and all the previous flight data supporting all the activities that were, supposed to be done by pilot, co-pilot, and there are many ifs. Then only this will happen. But this is a stack that we are looking at: simplified vehicle operations or simplified pilot operations in a stage-wise manner. It's not going to be that tomorrow, hey, UAM is there and then you remove the pilot. Because we have heard in the morning session, if some of you are here in the urban air mobility, in 2020 when they were close in coming up with a proposal of certifying an unmanned drone or an unmanned air vehicle to replacing that with a pilot. So which means they are still having a pilot even in the 2-passenger or 3-passenger or 4-passenger flights, because nobody is comfortable in flying, even though it is for a shorter distance. Nobody is going to bet their life with some autonomous system. So it's going to be certainly a stage-wise manner of how it goes.
I'd like to hear from CP Jois. What do you think? Single pilot cockpit?
I think the technology has existed long before we even described AI in the form we talk about it today. Back in 30 years ago, I ran flight operations and airport operations for United Airlines, and fundamentally, machine learning, and I'm a software engineer, so I still write code. You will see that the base of all that is statistics and probability and theory. And so essentially, I had statisticians, we had industrial engineers, operations research specialists. We were writing algorithms back 30 years ago. It's just that we were programming it ourselves. Today, with in the machine learning, it can be allowed to either supervise or unsupervised gain the knowledge on its own. So that's the fundamental difference that's come about. In terms of single pilot operations itself, therefore, the technology, I think, existed a long time ago. It has even become better now. Honeywell-like systems actually produce the stack. I don't believe it's the tech that's the challenge. The surrounding aspects of SPO has been initiated. In charter operations, which I do some of myself, you don't need a second pilot for most of the business jets, right? You can have the right seat empty, and if they're certificated, you can fly the airplane. The automation exists to reduce the load on the pilot, so you really don't need somebody else watching over you. There's a common joke in aviation, actually, for many years. All you need is a pilot and a dog. The dog to make sure that the pilot doesn't touch anything in the cockpit, and the pilot to feed the dog so it can monitor the pilot, basically. So this is a long-standing joke. So single pilot operations are very feasible. It's not at all a technological impossibility. The challenges are more with regard to risk. The state of mental health today is far worse than it was even 3 decades ago. Part of the challenge we run is the human in the loop. It's not about the technology, the technicality. Can a plane auto land? Yes, given the circumstantial technology infrastructure, it can auto land. Can it do an automated takeoff? It absolutely can. We're having difficulty. I'm a drone pilot too, and I can tell you, we're having difficulty having autonomous operations with drones. People fear that without a secondary person behind the drone pilot who's on the ground, there's risk even with that. So the surrounding risks with regard to managing flight without anybody in the front, I think is a people issue. There's a recent paper published by Embry Riddle, Scott Winter and Amy Hill published the research. They interviewed a bunch of participants and they asked them this question. They found 6 factors amongst many of the 800 people which were common, which relates to the lack of enthusiasm to deal with anything that's autonomous. The technically capable airplanes out there to do that today. But the recent crashes in charter operations when there was one pilot involved, more recent, and just you can go back into the last 2 years, you see business jets that have gone down with one pilot on board. So either you have remote capability, to Abhishek's point, right? This remote capability builds up other security concerns. So there is challenges outside of the cockpit, and its automation has less to do with another pilot not being there on board.
Thank you. And if I may ask you yet another question, sir. How do you see talent emerge in AI? What do you see the role of industry, the role of government in facilitating
I think we saw 3, with the previous session at 12 o'clock, we were talking about this. There are 3 distinct roles that come up, right? Fundamentally, if you look at it, you need people who want to build the model itself. You want to build, and I go away from large language models because it's very fashionable to talk about ChatGPT and OpenAI because the only thing, January 2023, everybody started marketing it. So it's very much fun to play with it. But true ML in the world that Ashish and I live in the world that Honeywell develops systems, is way beyond language models alone. So if you're truly programmatically writing algorithms to deal with AI, you have to step out of the language mode, right? Because language mode models are all built on known knowledge. If you really got to go after data sets that they're after, language only helps so much. So if you go back to the skill sets needed, you see three roles. One are people who need the basic building blocks in mathematical and computational sciences to write a model, to truly do unsupervised or supervised learning. The second role is where you deploy them to the open public to consume it in some form or the other. The third one that came up in that discussion was consumers, whether you're in fintech or if you're in aviation or in medicine, folks who use the model to do something more with it, right? They don't need to understand how it was built, they need to know how to apply it. So you could be a smartphone consumer. It has Siri, you know how to use it. You don't care about how it was built. Between those three roles, from a skill development standpoint, I think the challenge that we run today is less in the second two, which is people who know how to deploy and the ones who know how to use it. It's fundamentally understanding that to write a good model, you need really strong mathematical skills, statistical objectives, and then probabilistic modeling, right? Without those three, you can't be talking ML to begin with. And that is perhaps where we will stumble, because as much as you can go down supervised and unsupervised learning, hoping to curate the knowledge on its own, without those skills existent to write the base model, you're not going to get very far. Skill development, therefore, most of the focus today is in enhancing that. Unfortunately, what's gone counter our objectives is that so much of us have moved away from core skills, believing that the machine can do it, right? Not too many people today, if you talk about core statistical theory, half of them will want to shy away. And the other came up and said, log tables are the way most of us learned how to do mathematics and multiplication. Today, without a calculator, people can count 2 times 2. So it's the challenge, I think, is there. The Lego blocks of building knowledge have become the harder part to gain. But if you really want to build skill, it is in those areas.
Yeah. So one is the mathematical skills that CP talked about. And the other set, is, which is more also just as important, is collecting the data and the database and the data skills, right? And often big data skills. And those are pretty hard as well, because without the data, you can't even start to build the model. And those two are the challenges, both in terms of implementation as well as the skill development. If you want skills of just using ChatGPT, there's not really any skills required there. I mean, anybody can do that.
Georgina, would you like to add to what they said?
Just a different lens to that, actually. I think the way I see workforce is changing over the next couple of years is, I think, right now, or even if you look at colleges today, we focus very much on one particular line of what we are studying. It could be computer science, it could be engineering, it could be mathematics. But I think as years go by, people are going to need to pick up more skills than just one. And I think it's going to be more of a generalist than a specialist workforce. There's this very famous book by David Epstein called Range, which speaks very well about it. So for the students in the audience, I would definitely recommend reading Range by David Epstein. It just talks about how you find careers not only in one particular department, but you can also expand your horizon and look at various skills that could add to your portfolio. So yeah, just 2 cents from me on that.
Thank you. That's helpful. Abhishek, where do you see the ROI or return on investments in AI, and where are the biggest benefits in this industry?
Yeah, so before I add to the ROI, I just want to continue the previous one that I said and how Honeywell is addressing, and then I'll talk about the ROI. So till now, anyone who is building the avionics or the parts for the aircraft, or especially the UI which the pilot interacts, we think that the pilots also should think like an engineer, right? And then that's how we built it. Hey, we had 6 basic instruments, and then we converted into digital, and then we added more symbology and then more things. And then there was an intriguing session yesterday by Jois. I was very impressed, saying that we wanted to introduce more and more gadgets, and then it started creating more and more distractions, right? So what Honeywell is doing, so we are coming up with a flagship product. So it's announced 2022, and we are positive that it's going to be certified 2025, where we are saying that each aircraft is different. Each pilot handles each aircraft differently. So the Anthem framework, or the entire integrated avionics, is going to give pilots, airlines, and also the OEMs a liberty to arrange in the way that they want, or what is comfortable for them, but still having the basic things such as the aviation related aspects intact, number one. Number two, what we are also doing is, like I mentioned, going back to the simplified vehicle operation stack, we are also enabling the connectivity. Of course, the cyber security things needs to be worked out. So in this way, what happens is constantly the data will get communicated to the ground satellite, and that will help monitoring what's going on. And on top of it, of course we are enabling the gadgets, but it's again up to the pilots, airlines to mandate or allow allow them to use it. So this is going to be a comprehensive integrated avionics solution that Honeywell is going to come up with, and not to mention our state-of-the-art flight management system, which is helping, which was helping the pilot, and which is going to help for the years to come, help predict, and the fuel savings. Nobody will believe that the algorithms that we build in to the flight management system is going to help airlines save fuel. Right? A software saving fuel, because we help give optimized routes, we help give an alternate routes, we help avoid the weather, we help identify what height that you fly in order to save fuel. So these are different solutions that we come up with. Now, where do you get the ROI was the original question. So by doing all of this, number one, fuel savings, of course, goes without saying, and the pilot's workload comes down a bit, and the mindset and what Jois was telling, the mindset of the people, or how crazy the people have become today, there will be less and less workload on the pilots, and hence less and less incidents for the airliners. So it's going to be an indirect that we are going to become, and help pilots become more efficient in this way. So introduction of the technology, not just AI, but other technologies that we do. So we help with the enhanced vision system. So what we see versus what the cameras can see, what the sensor can filter, right? So we have the enhanced vision system, which can see in the dark, which can give you the entire runway before you take off or while landing, to identify any obstacles on the runway by thermal imaging, right? So there are several different things, but of course the aircrafts needs to be modified a bit. So there is again, should I upgrade? Should I not upgrade? Can we do a software only? So there are several things, but all in all, what happens is it'll make the aircrafts more efficient, and reduced workload on the pilots, and reduce the emergencies, or the pilots can fully focus in case of any emergencies. So this is how I would say where the ROI you will see with the latest introduction of technology.
Very, very nice. I think you answered part of my next question to Ashish, but I'd like to hear his viewpoint as well. The airline industry, we discussed this this morning as well. It's a very, very competitive industry, and it's been hard to stay afloat for some of the airlines. Where do you see the impact of AI? Do you think it's going to make a big difference in ensuring profitability with the airlines?
Yes, it definitely makes a big difference. As new technologies emerge, the airlines in this case, or any industry that uses it first, they get the competitive benefit in terms of enhanced profitability, enhanced efficiency, or whatever else you do. And then others that don't use it as quickly, then they fall behind. So in order to be competitive, you do have to use the new technologies, be it AI or whatever it is. In fact, all industries now need to become technology-led companies, is what I believe, and that's where the efficiency comes from. And that's, if you look at any industry, if you look at food industry, the successful ones are now the technology-led companies. If you look at insurance, any space you look at, it has to be technology-led, and I think that's true for airlines as well. And in terms of whether industries survive or not, the question is, who it can also lead to more of them shutting down if they don't evolve and use the technologies fast enough, and others do.
Thanks, Ashish. I know we are just 5 minutes or 3 minutes away, so we'll kind of wrap up the session with questions that I request all 4 of you to respond to. And the question is, what are maybe 2 things that your organization is going to do to make a meaningful impact in the space?
The first thing is sustainability. Akasa aims to be the greenest airline in India, and we've done various things in order to achieve that. I think for the rest of the year as well, we're going to make sure that we work harder on that. For example, the shoes that our cabin crew wear are made of marine plastic, which is recycled. Similarly, even the uniforms that are worn by the crew are made from recycled material. Similarly, we're looking at different aspects of our entire journey and trying to see where can we save more fuel, for example, where can we save more water, where can we do more recycling in terms of material that we have in our office space and on board. So sustainability is definitely one. The second is our on-time performance. I think it's famously said that you can't improve what you can't measure. So we are definitely going to be continuing to use data and technology to make sure that we are number one on time. I'd like to share that for the past 4 months, we have been the most on-time airline in India, and we hope to continue that journey. So yeah, I think it's a big achievement for an airline that's only been around for a year and a half. So yeah, these 2 are going to be our focus for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Georgina. Ashish?
Thank you, Gayatri. So I already talked about a couple of these things. One is the precog, which is rolling out now, which is to enhance safety for pilots and how they fly. The other one is fuel related. So in terms of software to help make sure that pilots fly the aircraft in the most fuel efficient manner possible, that is something that is getting rolled out. That there are already flight paths that may be there which are given, which we know are more fuel efficient, and there's a report that comes out after every flight. It goes to the pilot to show them whether they adhere to that or not, and then automatically they improve. The third area is around preventive maintenance, which is something that's also been around, but that's getting again rolled out at SpiceJet, which helps you to detect parts that are going to fail before they do. And then, because if they fail during operations, then it's very expensive. It leads to delays, flight, cancellations, things like that. So if you can predict that, it helps. So these are the 3 things that are rolling out this year.
Thank you.
So apart from what I mentioned about Anthem, which is going to be our integrated avionics, so we have duty to the environment as well. So Honeywell is very proactively working on sustainable aviation fuel. That's going to be a big game changer. Being in the aviation industry, we know how much pollution the airlines or the aircraft causes. So sustainable aviation fuel is one significant investment that Honeywell is doing, and we already have a breakthrough. We are working with the airlines, aircrafts to see how it can be taken. So that is one thing. The second one is with the technology coming up. What Honeywell also does, I mean, it's not now, we have been doing this proactively for the last 10 years. We partner with the regulators. We mutually learn, and we also guide sometimes the regulators on the technology that we are doing. We also keep them appraised on what are we working on, so that they can give their suggestions on building these technologies, and which will impact the safety. So there can be fine-tuning that can be done at much early stage. So these are the 2 things: sustainable aviation fuel, partnering with the certification regulators is one thing, are the 2 things that Honeywell works on.
Thanks, Abhishek.
So my part, a big part of it is actually education, to inspire and develop the next generation of aviators. That's one thing. But on the flight training side, where we have a steep pilot shortage, to cut the time and cost of flight training is objective number one, which means better access to flight simulators and the design of flight simulators in a way that they're not only more accessible but affordable too. That's number one. Number two is to be able to tap into the data streams that come out of flight simulators that we can truly apply machine learning technology to. The data sets in real time as much as possible, thereby personalizing and customizing flight training to the needs of a pilot. So it's not a one-size-fits-all model for every pilot. Every pilot develops habits over time, and to develop the ability to detect those changes, whether they come out of age, complacency, and or just routine use, each one of us either upgrades or degrades skills over time. So the ability to apply ML to data streams that come out of flight sims, which have traditionally been very closed items and devices, is a fundamental shift in the way we want to look at flight sims.
Thank you. I think we are almost out of time. We'd have loved to take some questions from the audience, but I'm being told that yeah, we need to wrap up. Okay, no worries, no worries. I want to thank again CP Jois, Abhishek Aladi, Ashish Vikram, and Georgina Galston. I think all of you with such varied backgrounds have kind of truly enriched this conversation. Thanks again.
Sure. Thank you so much. I request all of you to be seated for a moment. Sorry, we don't have time for the questions. You can always connect with our panelists right outside the hall if you wish to ask one-to-one question. So I request Sir, who's joined us on the stage, to do the honors. First, we'd like to honor CP Jois. Can we have a huge round of applause? Followed by, we'd like to welcome Mr. Abhishek Alhadi. And now Mr. Ashish Vikram. And now Georgina. Last but not the least, Gayatri, ma'am, to kindly join us forward. Thank you for your precious time. We'd like to present a small token of love from our side to all of you. Let's take a group picture, followed by giveaway of the goodies. Once again, thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you so much, Mr. Venkatalapati, for doing the honors. I'll request our hostess to kindly help the panelists.